All right, guys. So we are good to start today's class. As I already mentioned to you, we are going to break this session into two components, okay? The first component, the first session, what we are going to do is we are going to deep dive into PMBOK 7th edition, okay? Not just PMBOK 7th edition, we are also going to talk about the different types of materials and equipments that you need to have in order to pass your PMP in your first attempt. Okay, I'll give you a brief idea about what exactly are the different types of services offered by Team Academy in terms of helping the students to pass the PMP exam. I will also provide you a very good insight about PMBOK 7th edition. I will take you guys through the step-by-step process on how exactly you need to read the different types of materials that is expected to be done before you go for the exam, right? So when I say read a lot of materials, a lot of people are getting panicked. Should I actually read a lot of books just like how I did it in my school days or how I did it in my university days? No, not at all. PMBOK or PMP is the only certification that is available in the market. I wouldn't say only, but there could be a couple of certifications which is available in the market. But the only certification up to my knowledge which is available in the market that doesn't need you to read a lot of things, but it requires you to understand different perspectives, different scenarios and different techniques that you can use in project management to achieve the project management objectives, right? So PMP is more of a scenario based exam, rather it is not a memory based exam, right? So you need to understand the principles, you need to understand the components, you need to understand the value of what exactly a project manager is expected to do. And this is exactly what we are going to cover in today's class as well. Okay, guys. So with that quick note, let's deep dive into the different types of materials and equipment that you need to have for preparing for your exam. I welcome you all on board. The first step is to join the webinar to understand and to ensure that you are in the right place, to ensure that you have the confidence that going for PMP exam is not as difficult as it sounds in the market, right? A lot of people actually creates a lot of confusion in the market stating that PMP is very difficult to achieve. You need to study a lot of books, but the fact or the reality is that you don't need to study a lot of books. You need to actually learn, or you need to understand different types of concepts, right? That's the most important thing. Guys, before I start this session, I got a quick message from Mr. Faisal that I'm breaking up. Is that the case with everyone, or is my voice crystal clear for each and everyone, or am I breaking up?
Your voice is okay.
My voice is okay. Perfect. Is that the case with everyone else? Mr. Zickford, Mr. Uwais, anybody wants to give a comment over here if my voice is clear? Okay, clear. So it means that maybe Faisal has a problem with his phone, okay, or his network. All right, guys, let's deep dive into the materials, guides, and the tools that we need to have in order to prepare for the PMBOK, the PMP in the new exam pattern. Okay, so you might ask a question, Dinesh, you just told me that you don't need to study a lot of books, but you're showing me about 9 different books or 10 different books that is listed over here. Of course, I show you all the 10 different books to ensure that you got a very good understanding in terms of how PMI is thinking about the PMP exam. What are the materials from which PMI is collecting the data and how they are testing out in their examination, right? So you need to note that the PMP exam in the new exam pattern starting from 2021 onwards, and now we have smaller revisions in terms of the exam, is based on all of these books, okay? So which starts from Agile Practice Guide, Project Management by Harold Kensner. He's one of my favorite author. We have Effective Project Management by Rudney. We have Technology Project Management, Project Manager's Portable Handbook, information technology project management, and we got essential Scrum project management toolkit. And to add to this, we also have PMBOK 7th edition, PMBOK 6th edition, and all these stuff. Okay, so guys, the best part is that we as training institutes, we as training academy, we do actually take the pain of simplifying all these subjects, all these reference materials into structured learning outcomes, so that the students or the participants feels comfortable about what they are set to study, right? However, this was the case till 2020. Okay, starting from 2021 onwards, what PMI did is that they collected all these data from all the 9 different books that I was talking about, and they consolidated into one simple handbook, which is called as the PMI Authorized Exam Prep Manual. Okay, so this PMI Authorized Exam Prep material is actually the baseline for you to prepare for your PMP exam, which means that this book is actually the consolidation of all the references that PMI is talking about. Okay, so all you have to do is, again, not to read the book and memorize it, but you need to understand what exactly is all about empowerment. You cannot read empowerment for 2 pages and start empowering the people. You know, what exactly is accountability all about? You cannot read it for 2 paragraphs and you start being an accountable person. That doesn't happen, right? So when you read the PMI Authorized Exam Prep Manual, you get an understanding about what is the expected benchmark to that of a great project manager. What is the expected benchmark to that of a great leader, right? And let's say, for example, accountability is about taking the responsibility of what you do and what others do, right? Empowerment is all about ensuring that you go ahead and motivate someone, you care for the people around you, and you ensure that you actually go ahead and empathize people to work towards the objectives. Now, if you ask me, can all of these things be programmed? Can all of these things be read and understood? The answer is no. This is kind of a culture. This is kind of a practice, right? So it's not about reading, which is very important. As an objective from the training program, you need to look at where did you join the training program, from point A to point B, which is about the transformation in terms of your people skills, transformation in terms of your process knowledge, transformation in terms of how do you look at the business environment, right? So now leadership is actually not a mandatory choice for each and everyone. It's just like, should I want to be pregnant? You know, it's a choice of the ladies. Should I be pregnant? Can I be pregnant? I want to be pregnant, right? It's the choice of the girl to decide whether she wants or doesn't want to be pregnant. The same thing goes with leadership as well. Should I want to be a leader? Am I a leader? Am I aiming towards that, right? So leadership is something just like how you work out your muscle, right? So you got your muscle, you go to your gym and you practice every day for maybe 2 hours to ensure that you got the right muscles and right the body fit, right? The same thing which goes with leadership as well. Leadership is with each and every individual, and it can be practiced, it can be learned, it can be it can be adapted, right? So now, if you ask me, is there a single book where I can go ahead and learn about what is leadership? The answer is no. You don't have a single reference book that says that leadership is all about this one. No, you cannot. Even if you read that book, it doesn't mean that you turn out as a good leader. You turn out as a good leader based on the practice that you do, based on the perceptions that you have with the people around you, based on the ethics that you hold, based on how humble you act in the society, based on how accountable you are in terms of handling the projects, right? So now PMBOK talks about all of these things, right? So the questions are not straightforward that what is accountability all about. Rather, it's about putting you into a specific scenario and testing you out whether you are accountable in that situation, right? Putting you into a specific scenario and asking you about what you will do next in this specific situation. Putting you into a scenario and asking you about how will you empathize a specific team member during this specific journey, right? So even if you read PMBOK, if you read all these 9 different books, if you read the PMP exam prep manual and you don't practice leadership, you cannot pass the exam. As simple as that, because the examination is more focused towards the transformation perspective. How, as an individual, I focus on the people part of project management, right? So this is something that goes along with practice. This is something that goes along with adapting yourself to the modern expectations of what a project manager is expected to perform. And it is very simple. It's not very difficult. At the same time, it's not very simple. It's very interesting, and it has to come along with great amount of passion, isn't it? So let's say, for example, as a project manager, I go along with my team and I need to motivate my team members to get the stuff done, for which you need to be motivated first, right? So as Captain Dhoni, if Captain Dhoni thinks that we will not win this match, I'm sorry if you guys are from Philippines or from other countries. If you're from India, I'm sure you know about what exactly I talk over here. So if you're Mr. Captain Dhoni, if you yourself think at the perspective that I cannot win this match, you will not be able to win that match, isn't it? So if I think as a trainer, oh my God, the time is already 7:30. I need to close it by 8:30. I need to look at the clock and I need to really quick or really fasten up this training. Immediately what you guys will be doing is that you guys will also be looking at the time, right? So over here, as a leader or as a trainer or as a project manager, it is about the reflection of the energy. If I take it with good amount of energy level, the same training program, you would also feel that energy level. If I take it with good amount of motivation, you will take it up with good motivation. Hey, I'm going to get the PMP done. If I'm going to take it up with real boring aspect, hey guys, this is all about the stuff and you got to practice this, and this is the slide number 1, this is the slide number 2, this is the slide number 3, you are going to feel bored as well. So as a leader, reflection of your emotional intelligence is very important. You need to keep yourself emotional, your emotional intelligence needs to be high. Your perception about the people in terms of positively thinking about the project objective needs to be high. You need to be optimistic about the project objectives. Only then you will have the team which is empowered to get the stuff done, right? Now, I spoke about empowerment. Now, you might feel a little bit pinch about what exactly empowerment is all about. Now, if you ask me, can I read the book and start, start my empowerment journey? The answer is no. You need to practice yourself, right? So throughout this program, what we are going to do is that we are going to ensure that each and everyone turns out as a good leader, right? So this is my passion. I do work here in Team Academy, not just for teaching the PMP training program and make commercials, but I make good relationship, I make good network, and I need to ensure that I focus on bringing the next generation leaders. Only if I focus on bringing next generation leaders, so that you guys, you will get that piece of information and you will transform the information into applied learning, and you will transform the applied learning into wisdom, so you will become an empowered professional in the society. You will become a great leader in your own industry, right? So that's the objective of the training program. That's the outcome of the training program, is to make you guys good leaders. The output is actually the certification for you guys, and the output is the commercial intention for me. But we don't focus on the output, rather we focus on the outcome. And this is exactly what PMI is expecting you when you take your PMP exam. As simple as that. PMP is not going to expect you about the output that you learned from your PMBOK 7th edition, the output that you learned from your PMI authorized manual. PMP is not going to expect the output that you learn from your Agile Practice Guide. Rather, PMI is going to expect about the outcomes that you have actually learned based on reviewing these materials, based on using these materials and getting transformed, right? So if you haven't transformed after this training program, it might not be very easy for you to take the PMP exam. That's the only expectation that I need to set it right forward over here. So in order to transform, you need to practice a little bit about leadership. Now, PMBOK 7th edition made this concept pretty simple, okay, pretty easy to understand. pretty easy to digest, as well. So this is exactly what we are going to go through over here. So every time PMBOK, what is PMBOK, guys? PMBOK is nothing but Project Management Body of Knowledge. Okay, so the book is titled as a Guide to Project Management Body of Knowledge. It's directly not written as Project Management Body of Knowledge. So what is the difference between a guide to project management body of knowledge and project management body of knowledge? It's nothing but, if I practice law, I will go ahead with the body of knowledge for law. If I practice doctor, I will go ahead with body of knowledge for doctorate. If I practice legal or international laws, I will go ahead with body of knowledge for contracts, FEDIC, and stuff like that. But PMBOK is actually not a body of knowledge. Okay, even though the word says project management body of knowledge, which is what PMBOK stands for, it's still not the body of knowledge. It is a guide to the body of knowledge, which means that in the title itself, PMBOK stays humble, stating that we are not the only framework that allows you to apply project management concepts in your project to be successful. We claim that this is one of the guides that if you apply in your project management concepts, the chances of success is more. How do you say that the chances of success is more? Because we tested out different project managers who are working across the globe. The people working in projects across the globe, they came across and they started contributing towards three important things. What went well? What could have been done better in order to prevent that scenario? What went wrong in my project? So based on the cumulative survey that was collected from all the project managers across the globe, PMBOK7th edition was evolved. Okay, now which is the institute which was responsible to encourage this idea is actually Project Management Institute. So Project Management Institute is actually a not-for-profit organization which encouraged people to come up with their lessons learned in the project, and based on the lessons learned from their project, they set up something what we call it as de facto standards. De facto standards means that de facto, the word stands for generally accepted best practices in terms of project management. So what you're going to learn over here is nothing but the best practices in terms of project management. And if you ask me, I learned the best practices of project management over here. If I apply it in my project, will I be successful? Again, PMBOK takes a disclaimer over here. It's not that when you apply all these concepts that Mr. Dinesh teaches you or what PMBOK teaches you, if you apply it in your project, you will be successful. But PMBOK again claims that the chances of success will be increased if you follow disciplined project management. The chances of you being not guilty in a specific position is high when you actually choose your PMBOK7th edition or PMBOK6th edition strategy. So what do I mean by this? Very simple. I was traveling along with my family in Nepal about 2 years before in a very big mountain, okay? And we were traveling across the mountain, and unfortunately, our car met with a small accident. And what happened is that the car met with an accident and we were about to fall from the top of the mountain, okay? We were just about to fall from the top of the mountain. Thankfully, we were saved just because we had a simple barricade which was kept in the top of the mountain. So the vehicle actually hit the barricade and we stopped right there at that position, okay? So now, why did I took this example? Now, you being a project manager, it is very important to note that when you travel in your project, you are surrounded by a lot of risk, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguities, a lot of challenges. Now, by learning PMBOK6 or PMBOK7th edition or the PMP exam prep material, what you are practicing yourself from the process perspective is that how do you install these barricades throughout the project to ensure that you don't fall atop, right? You don't fall from the mountain. You don't fall off from the project. So what are the processes that installs the discipline starting from initiation till the closure? Starting from the time you start climbing the mountain till you reach the top of the mountain, what all different processes that you should be aware about, which creates the barricade for your project, and it creates a conducive and it creates a positive and a secure environment for you, your team, your stakeholders, right? So that you don't fall through the trap, you don't fall through the different types of uncertainties that you will encounter, right? So whatever that I spoke about in the first small introduction was about the people part of project management. The second thing which I discussed just now is about the process part of project management. And in PMBOK, in your PMP exam, that is all you need to study. You need to understand how you need to be a good people leader, how you need to install different types of barricades from the beginning till the end of your project with simple case studies, with simple examples from Qatar, with simple examples. If you could understand each and every simple examples over here, the reflection of your thought process will become as the exam questions. And when you go for your exam, it will be a simple piece of pie cake, the rumor is that, or the myth is that PMBOK or PMP is very difficult. But the fact is, PMP is all about your passion towards leadership. PMP is all about your ethics. PMP is all about your accountabilities, right? So I've been talking about this for a very long time, and it took PMBOK to ascertain or to emphasize that whatever we are talking over here is in a body of knowledge, right? I don't reflect this energy. I'm not talking about all of these things from the top of my mind, even though some of the examples does come from the top of my mind, but I try to reveal you what exactly comes from the PMBOK 7th edition itself, right? So we got 3 different materials over here in order for you to pass for your PMP exam, okay? The first material is what we call it as the standard for project management, okay? So the standard for project management, the second material is called as a guide to PMBOK 7th edition, and the third material is PMI authorized PMP exam prep material. If you just want to pass your PMP exam, all you have to do is focus on the PMI authorized PMP exam prep material. You get 80% of the questions in the new exam pattern. In the recent trends, 80% of the questions that you will get in your exam is from the PMI authorized PMP exam prep material. Okay, so where does the rest of the 20% of the question comes from? Okay, the rest of the 20% of the question comes from the PMBOK. So what is PMBOK? PMBOK is nothing but both of these materials clubbed together, the standard for project management and the guide to PMBOK together is what we call it as PMBOK 7th edition itself. Okay, so it's not 3 different books, it's 2 books, but a simple PMBOK is divided into 2 components, the standards for project management and the guide to PMBOK, right? So as it describes over here, standards for project management, which means that it's not a standard for PMP exam preparation. It's a standard on how you execute effective projects, right? So PMBOK is a metadata of a lot of books that has been done, that has been in the market, and it becomes like a metadata of all these different materials, right? Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at what is the difference between PMBOK 6th edition and 7th edition. It is not very good to make a justification or a judgment to actually compare PMBOK 6th edition and PMBOK 7th edition. Okay, in fact, PMBOK 7th edition is actually more interesting, and it is actually a superset of the PMBOK 6th edition. So what do I mean by this? When you look at the concepts which is around PMBOK 7th edition, you see that a lot of concepts which was in PMBOK 6th edition is already present over here. And PMBOK 7th edition doesn't focus only on the process part of project management, but it also focuses on the people part. It also focuses on the business environment, and it lays down certain principles. So what are these principles? It's a principle-based framework. These principles are very easy to understand, okay? So how do you actually take these principles in practical nature? For example, you had been in a team of 10 people, okay? One guy was always a pain in the neck just because he was not very adaptable to you, he was not very flexible to you. So at one point in time, you started asking a question, hey, Mr. Faisal or Mr. Dinesh, I'm looking at myself and I'm asking a question. I'm being humble to different people. I'm being honest with all the people. I'm also trying to empower all the people. I'm trying to be in the best interest of all these people. Am I actually wrong? You might get this question in your mind, right? I'm trying to do the best that I want to do it in the organization, but my organization is neither allowing me to do so, or I'm being hampered from doing certain things, right? Now you get a question or a doubt in your mind. Am I the only person cornered in this specific fashion? Am I the only person thinking about this? Is adaptability not a good choice? Is stewardship not a good choice? Now, what you start doing is that you start asking a lot of questions around yourself in terms of the people part, in terms of the value that is expected to be benchmarked. What PMBOK 7th edition does is that, as simple as that, it clarifies the best characteristics that a project manager is expected to have, as simple as that. As a project manager, I should be a good steward. I should be a good team member. I should be focusing on value. I need to ensure that I will take care of my stakeholders quite well. I need to ensure that the risk is managed appropriately, right? So now we have certain values that you need to focus on, right? PMBOK 6th edition, or starting from PMBOK 1st edition till PMBOK 6th edition, it was more process oriented. What do I mean by process oriented? If I want to initiate the project, I need to have business case as an input. I will have project charter as an output. Now with project charter, what do? I will have to develop my project management plan. What do I do with my project management plan? I start executing my project management plan. And while I'm executing the project, I have certain variances. I need to track these variances and I need to report it to the senior management, or I need to report it to the different set of stakeholders. This is all about ensuring that project management is done in a process-oriented fashion. But we need to understand that human beings are not systems. There is altogether a different perspective in terms of how we look at systems, how we look at processes, and how we look at people. This is exactly clarified in your PMBOK 7th edition. So what PMBOK 7th edition tries to address is that project management is not just only processes. Project management is more about the values that the project manager brings into the project, the values that as a project manager that you are expected to possess and lead a team in order to bring in the best objectives for the project. So what are the values is what is discussed in the PMBOK 7th edition, okay? So usually when one edition gets superseded by the next edition, it's not a matter of fact that it becomes complicated. In this scenario, the PMBOK 7th edition, which is superseded by PMBOK 6th edition, is more interesting. It is more insightful, isn't it? You will learn why. You will learn how interesting it is and why it is interesting through the coming sessions. Okay, so this is actually the transformation from the PMBOK 6th edition to the 7th edition. 6th edition was more process oriented. 7th edition is more value oriented. Now we need to look at what type of value does PMBOK 7th edition brings to me. How does PMBOK 7th edition brings value to my team? How does PMBOK 7th edition brings value to my stakeholders is what we are going to discuss further. Hope you guys are on board over here, right? Clear? So I hope the story is going in a proper sense, isn't it? Okay, very good. So the first thing for you in the PMBOK 7th edition, guys, I'm going to give you a compressed version of what exactly is within PMBOK 7th edition, okay? I took the hard work to read more than 50 hours, but I'm transforming this knowledge for you just about an hour or maybe two, which means that, I'm taking a little bit of effort to make sure that I cascade this passion, I cascade the passion of training towards you guys, right? So what is that I'm expecting from you? I'm not expecting a very good money or very good reals from you guys. If you're willing to, Of course, I do accept it. That's not the only outcome, but the outcome is to ensure that you learn all of these things and try to systematically think in your mind, how is it applicable in my organization? How is it applicable in my life? How is it applicable in my family? This is what I tell all the participants as well. First of all, you need to be a professional. So what does it take for you to be a professional is very important. The second thing is you got to apply all of these concepts in your family. Am I a family management professional? Okay, your wife needs to certify you that you're a very good family management professional. Only then you stay qualified to take your project management professional. Even though the eligibility criteria sounds different in the PMBOK, in the PMP, PMI website, but this is what is the expectations from my side, right? So you got to be a professional, you got to be a family professional, and then you got to be a project management professional. And you need to understand that whatever that you learn from this specific training program from a project management perspective is not just about application of these concepts in your organization, but application of these concepts in your real life scenario as well. So what do you do when you get excess money? Let's say, for example, Mr. Dinesh gets about 100,000 riyals as his salary every month. Okay. So you guys are now feeling envious about me. Wow, this guy is getting 100,000 riyals. Okay, I just want to make sure that I feel I'm getting 100,000 riyals. The feeling of actually me getting 100,000 riyals is much better than actually I'm getting 100,000 riyals. So I just want you guys to assume things over here. So let's say, for example, I got 100,000 riyals as my salary. Okay, maybe I spend 20,000 riyals in terms of my operational cost, in terms of sending my daughter to a good school, in terms of paying my electricity bill, in terms of paying XYZ, in terms of paying my car dues, in terms of paying my EMI. All of these things, we can say that it is quite operational in nature. Either I'm willing to do it or I'm not willing to do it. I need to keep this money in order to survive here in Qatar, right? So let's say, for example, I got excess of 80,000 Qatari riyals per month, which is what my aim is all about. It's not the reality, but anyway, let's take it as a fictitious example over here. If I got 80,000 Qatari riyals in excess every month, I stacked up this cash for maybe about 10 months, okay? I got $1 million Qatari riyal in my bank account. Now, what will I do with this $1 million Qatari riyal? Okay, if you ask Mr. Faisal, he will say that I will invest in real estate. If you ask Ms. Anita, she will say that I will invest in gold. If you ask my wife, she will say that please construct a home for me way back in India. Different people have different objectives, isn't it? But what is the most important thing over here is that your intentions and your objectives may not be the same as that of your organization's intention and organization's objective. If the organization wants to invest $1 million Qatari riyal or maybe 10 million Qatari riyals into a specific initiative, what they do is that they have to look at, I'm going to invest 100,000 Qatari riyals to start a new training center, or I want to invest 100,000 Qatari riyals to improve the technology of the organization from X to Y, or I want to invest 200,000 Qatari riyals to bring in a new product to my organization. So these are the different types of concepts or ideas that sparks in the mind of the entrepreneurs or the mind of the organization executives, right? It's not very important just to ensure that, I got a vision, but you need to have a system on how you will deliver that vision, which is very important. So the system encompasses over here about, I'm having this 100,000 Qatari riyals. I need to think about the market condition. Now the market condition in Qatar is very, very, very good. It is tempting for me to invest. My external environment is supporting me towards this initiative. Okay, now I need to think about my internal resources. Do I have all the resources who are energetic, empowered to work along with me to achieve this objective? My internal environment looks positive. I have a sufficient number of people to get this initiative accomplished. Now I need to think about how do I organize my portfolio. All right. Now this 1 million Qatari riyal, I have 2 or 3 different projects that needs to be done within my organization. Okay. So there is someone called as portfolio manager, the chief of IT department or the chief of the marketing department, or the chief of human resource department. He wants to bring in a change to the organization. So what he does is that he invests in different types of initiatives. Okay, so the portfolio manager is very much responsible to ensure that they take the right decision, they take the right investment strategies, and they have certain vision in their mind. Okay, now is that the same vision that your chief executive officer has? Is that the same vision the project manager has in their mind as well? The answer may be yes, maybe no. If you're organizing, if you're working in an organization where the chief executive officer has one vision, the head of the department has another vision, the project manager has another vision, then it means that there are 4 tires in the car, but none of them are aligned. It will not go smooth, it will not go straight. So it is expected that the chief executive officer or the portfolio manager is expected to have a proper alignment, right? So we call this as strategic alignment. Strategic alignment means that the cognitive thought process in terms of my chief executive officer and the chief marketing officer, the chief, the project manager, everybody thinks through in the same perspective. Everybody thinks through in the same dimension, right? This is what we mean by cognitive strategic alignment. So you might think that the words are very difficult, but it is very simple. If I want to actually give you a simple example, maybe you hate one of your neighbor. Your neighbor is actually very stingy guy. He doesn't spend a lot of money in terms of party and stuff like that. You and your wife, you're discussing about your neighbor that this guy is actually doing a lot of things. He doesn't actually does this. And at the same time, you need to understand that the neighbor is also talking bad about you because you're talking bad about your neighbor. Your neighbor is also talking bad about you. Let's say, for example, you talk about your neighbor or your relative. You know what? We went to this party. I had really very good energy and I really had very good enjoyment in this party. This guy, Mr. Mukesh, was really a very good person. You know what? Actually, he was a very soft guy. He was a very nice guy. You praise him with your wife, At the same time, the exact reflection happens in Mr. Mukesh family as well, isn't it? Now, this is what we mean by cognitive thought process. What you think is what exactly the other person thinks at the same time, right? Now, this cognitive alignment is becoming as a very major challenge in organization. What Mr. Chief Executive Officer thinks is not exactly the same as that of the project manager thinks, right? So how do you bring in a system for value delivery based on the cognitive thought process is what PMBOK 7th edition introduces as the first chapter. Okay, so if you read the PMBOK 7th edition, you will get the same thing, right? You need to arrange your organization system from the perspective of how the external environment, maybe during COVID-19, the external environment was different. Now, after the COVID-19, we got FIFA, the external environment is different. The internal environment is that recently the leadership in my organization changed. There is an internal environmental impact, right? Now, all these things boils down to how you execute the project, right? It has a disruption in terms of the cognitive thought process as well. As leaders, we are expected to ensure that the cognitive thought process is aligned with each and every person in the organization, right? It is the chief executive officer's responsibility to ensure that the cognitive thought process is aligned from the organization perspective, from the department perspective, the project manager perspective, and the staff perspective. That is the role of the chief executive officer. Correct. So, when I was actually looking at one of the interview from the chief executive officer, hey, Mr. Chief CEO, what is your most important focus in your organization? And this guy says that the most important focus for my organization is that I need to make sure that the customers are happy, customers are focused, customers are delighted. Wow, great. This guy has never spoken to even a single customer since the last 15 years. Okay, so the chief executive officer says that customer delightment is very important, but this guy did not spoke to even a single person in the last 15 years. How can he say that customer delightment is important? No, it's not the customer delightment which is important. That is an outcome. As a chief executive officer, I am responsible for the people who manages the people who manages the customers, isn't it? As a project manager, I am responsible to manage the people who are within the project management team, who is responsible to manage the people who are executing the project, who does the job done, right? So as a chief executive officer, I need to ensure that I empower the people who empowers the people in return, who empowers the customers, right? So when I was actually in Four Seasons Hotel recently, you know, the welcoming gesture which was given by one of the staff is that, hey, how are you? And it came directly from the heart. Okay, nobody trained them on this is how you need to behave with your customer. You know, on the other hand, I went to another restaurant, you know, another hotel, which I don't want to name it. Okay, but people over here are more mundane. Yes, sir, please welcome. How can I help you? Is there anything else that I can help you with? More process oriented. So you can see organizations which is actually empowered based on the people-centric focus, where people feel that it is their accountability to get the stuff done. It is their passion to work in this specific organization. At the same time, you can see another organization where you are put as a process within a specific system. Hey, Mr. Yogesh, please come in. What is your sales target? 60 sales. You made only 30 sales. What happened to the rest of the 30 sales? You know, you are behind the processes. Now, what PMI did over here is a very beautiful survey, is a very beautiful gesture. They interviewed a lot of organizations that has been successful to understand what is the cultural habits that they have taken. What is the value proposition that they have brought into the system, right? And they have delivered, they have developed this system for value delivery, which is the PMBOK 7th edition, the first chapter focus, right? If I have to give you another example, okay, Toyota is responsible for quality. Toyota claims that we are responsible for quality. The mindset of quality focus is only from the chief executive officer. How this guy was able to install the mindset of quality with each and every person within the organization. You know, this is what we call it as cascading the value down, right? So now what PMBOK does is that PMBOK did a lot of synergy based on all of these things. They adapted to project management. They see the value proposition in terms of project management, and they say that organizations will be valued only when they have different portfolios, when they have systematic arrangements of projects, and how the project managers and leaders behave in the organization, right? So this is what exactly what is set forward in your PMBOK 7th edition as the first chapter. Now the second chapter looks even more interesting. You spoke about all these stuff, Mr. Dinesh. Now, what are the principles that I need to follow in order to get this stuff done? This is your second chapter in PMBOK, right? And this is quite important and interesting as well. Why it is important? Why it is interesting? Because we don't have processes over here to say that this is what you're expected to do. This is what is your roles and responsibilities. In some of the organizations, which I don't want to name, okay? But you might get a clue of it, right? You have to come at 7 o'clock. You have to leave at 3:30. You have to come at 8 o'clock, you have to leave at 4:30. Okay, measure the temperature of my seat to make sure that what is my productivity. Okay, my seat is at a very good temperature. Wow, you got the reward. You are promoted as a senior engineer. Wow, your seat is burning out now. It got fire. Oh my God, you're promoted as a project manager. You know, But we need to understand that nowadays the modern organizations are shifting from process-oriented structure to value-oriented structure. This is greatly emphasized in PMBOK as well. Okay, so PMBOK says that if you got to be a great project manager, what are the 12 guiding principles, right? So just like when we had the golden empire in India, we say that Akbar's empire was the golden empire. Or we say Rajaraja Cholan. I'm not sure how many people know about him from Tamil Nadu. Okay, Rajaraja Cholan is actually a Tamilian, right? During his empire, it was a golden period for the people, right? Let's say, for example, Barack Obama. I don't want to criticize about it. I don't want to talk about it. Let's say Tamim. Again, I don't want to get into controversies. But let's say, for example, when different leaders span across different time period, we feel that they made a huge impact. It was just one person, right? Now, based on the charisma from all these leaders, PMBOK took the values and the guiding principles that these leaders had in commonality, right? And they're not talking only about leaders in commonality for a general organization as a whole, but as project managers, as project leaders, successful project leaders, what are they expected to do? And what is their guiding principles is what is in your PMBOK 7th edition, chapter number 2. And why, I was so excited when I was reading this book is because it closely aligns with what exactly I was thinking through. Education system is nowadays very different. We focus on value more than processes. We don't focus on output, we focus on outcome. For example, as part of PMP in Team Academy, I don't focus on more on the output, which is the commercials. Okay, I might get 10,000 riyals, I might get 100,000 riyals, I might have some people turn out to join for the admission, but I don't focus on the output. I really focus on the outcome. Outcome is all about, am I passionate enough to teach? Am I actually having that stewardship to conduct this training program? At the end of the day, I feel accomplished when I delivered a very good lecturer, right? When I delivered a good lecture, that's the outcome. Because when you focus on outcome, output is an automatic process, isn't it? Output, commercials is an automatic process. It automatically happens. This is exactly what PMBOK is stressing in its principle as well. Outcome is what you are expected to focus on. Output is all about the constraints. Now, PMBOK 6th edition was more an output-based framework. You need to manage a schedule. You need to manage a cost. You need to manage a time. Okay, what is the technicalities of doing all these things? Oh, okay, I need to learn this formula. I need to learn this technique. I need to do this. Why should you learn all of these things when it is already automated in Microsoft Project, when it is automated in Primavera? No, you don't have to learn the techniques of how to compute a specific constraint. You have to interpret what it means. But the most important thing is that you need to manage the people who manage the scope. You need to manage the people who manage the time. You need to manage the people who manage the stakeholders. And what makes you to manage better are these 12 guiding principles. First principle starts from stewardship. What does stewardship means? You got to be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. What do I mean by that? You cannot manipulate things. Hey, I care about you a lot. No, it doesn't work out like that. You need to really take it out from your heart, right? When you take it out from your heart and you really start behaving with people in a way that it reflects your naturality, it reflects your good ethics and good habit, it reflects certain best practices, automatically people will start respecting you, isn't it? A simple example is that, I don't want to throw the bottle outside. You know what? It's a bad practice. I throw the bottle inside the trash can. Very good. When 3 people are looking at you, you do that. And when no one is looking at you, you just throw it as you like. And especially, this is a very bad character with Indians. Anyway, I don't want to stereotype things over here, but it's just fun. But I don't want to blame that. We Indians, we are more responsible, and we are a caring steward, especially when we are outside India. Anyway, again, I don't want to discuss about it. Be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward, right? What is that? You took care of nature. For me, the most important thing is that whatever that I earn from Qatar, I want to plant trees way back in India. This is actually one of the organization's focus as well. We make it as an organization focus. I'm not saying that I'm doing a great job. I'm trying to do a simple step, right? Which can be better. Again, what is all about being a steward is that if someone asks you, are you a great leader? The moment you start thinking, yes, I'm a great leader. Or when I say you have to have a great leadership skills, you are already perceiving that, yes, I'm already a great leader. That is when you start accusing yourself. That is when you start being closed, rigid, right? When you're closed, when you're rigid, it means that you're not open to options. You're not open to different perspectives, right? So what is a good leader? When you interview a good leader, what does he say? Are you a good leader? I'm trying to be one. This is what great leaders actually say, right? So be diligent, be respectful, be humble, and be a caring steward. This is the first important thing as a project manager you are expected to do. The second thing is that you need to create a collaborative project team environment. So what do we mean by collaborative team environment? Okay, usually what happens in organization is that there is a graph of adoption. Let's say, for example, when you want to start your project, okay, the project is exciting. You want to talk to the team members about the project. Out of 100 people in your team, 2.5% of the people are like Elon Musk or like Bill Gates. They are proactive and you form a strong correlation with them. Okay, 12.5% of the people within your organization are early adopters, which means that they are very eager, they're very anxious to come and work for your project. It's very easy to get your win on these 15% of the people. Okay, 35% of the people are somewhat like, is it actually good? Yeah, they look positive about it. Okay, 30% of the people are neutral. Maybe if it comes, what is the benefit do I have in this project? Will I get a promotion if I work on this project? That's the 30% of the people. And the rest of the people are like negative towards your objectives. Oh, this guy is taking this project. Something will fail. He's taking it based on his personal interest. This is something that you cannot actually avoid. This is how the team is built, and this is how the people within the team are. People are supportive, very supportive, 15%. Somewhat in neutral, 70%, somewhat negative, few people, right? This is the same thing which happens within the family as well. Wow, you got in the early days when my grandfather had 16 kids or 15 kids, everyone was there in the home. Okay, some were good, some were bad, some were very adamant. Okay, after completing their school days, someone who was adamant, you say that, okay, you completed your school, now you're up for adoption. you cannot actually check out your family members. You cannot terminate your family members, right? The same thing works in project as well. You cannot cut down a team member just because he's not performing. He's not performing because maybe their parents are not well. He's not performing. Maybe he had a recent divorce. Maybe he's not performing well. He had something else. You need to consider collaboration. Collaboration means that hearing from everyone and taking a decision which will be in the best interest of everyone, right? You will get more than 15 questions in the PMP exam just related to how collaborative are you as a person. Collaborative doesn't mean that you're cooperative. If you're too much cooperative, it means that you will be a floor mat within the organization. I've seen many people in the company, what they do is, give me this project, I'll take it up. Give me that project, I'll take it up. Another project, I'll take it up. And you see, after 3 years, they start complaining. I did a lot of projects in my organization, but they did not promote me. It's just because you did a lot of projects, they did not promote you because you were a floor mat. You were actually being so cooperative to things, right? You are the nail which points more, which get hammered more. Isn't it? So being proactive, can I actually, being proactive is very good, but at the same time, I'm a kind of a person who is very cooperative. Doesn't mean that you are collaborative. At the same time, I'm a kind of a person very assertive. Someone tells me something, no, I will assess my own thought process. I'll take a decision based on that. We call this as being assertive. Assertive means that I'm into a specific situation and I take the decision in the best interest of the organization, and I will ensure that the outcomes are realized, right? Like Adolf Hitler, he wants to care for German. He's not a bad leader. He's just he's not a democratic leader. He's a dictatorship kind of a leader, which means that he's highly assertive. Now, what is expected to be as a collaborative leader is that you are highly assertive and at the same time you're highly cooperative. Now, if you ask me how to practice this, you don't have a book to read. The same thing goes over here as well, but it comes with a lot of interest. When we start discussing about all of these things in the class, we will take case studies, we will take scenarios, we will take examples to understand what this collaboration means, right? So that's about creating a collaborative team environment. The next important thing is don't forget your stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders, take what a stakeholder means, anyone and everyone who is actually part of your project, right? Okay, some of the stakeholders might be positive, some might be negative, some might be neutral, just like the same graph I explained to you a while before. What is your expectation? You got 15% of the stakeholders who are very positive. Okay, very good. Move them to being a negative stakeholder. You're being very positive. Okay, come to me, come to my project, come to me. I didn't make you a negative guy. It is my accountability to make you a negative guy. Correct? That is what you're not expected to do. Okay, so what is your expectations? Someone who is actually negative stakeholders, bring them to a positive stakeholder zone. Someone who's neutral, bring them to positive zone. It is very easy. If you are an optimistic person, you will convert. What is the difference between an optimistic guy and a pessimistic guy? Very simple. An optimistic guy brings the neutral to positive, and negative he tries to bring to neutral. That's what an optimistic guy will do. What does a pessimistic guy will do? A pessimistic guy will push an optimistic guy from positive to neutral and push a neutral person to negative. That's it. We have only two types of people over here. And what is the expectations of PMI? Engage your stakeholders, be positive, be optimistic about your objectives in terms of moving the people from negative to neutral and neutral to optimistic. That's how they lead things. How are you going to engage them? If someone needs only information, it's as simple as that. You don't have to manage all the stakeholders. You don't have to please them. Project management is not about customer service. No, it's about segregation, prioritization of your stakeholders, and how do you need to treat them, right? The same thing happens with Qatar Airways. When you go in Qatar Airways, first-class passengers, welcome on board. You're treated very well. The same happens in your project as well. Stakeholders who have high power, high interest, first-class passengers. Stakeholders, high power, low interest, business class passengers. Stakeholders who have high interest, low power, economy class passengers. Stakeholders who have no power, no interest. Staff ticket, ID90 tickets, they will be left out, right? Okay, so that's how you engage the stakeholders, because you don't have time to engage all the different stakeholders in all, you cannot keep them satisfied, you cannot manage them closely. So you need to have a strategy on how do you care for the most important stakeholders, how do you care for the next stakeholders, how do you prioritize them, and how do you ensure that you reach your objectives, right? The same thing happens with Team Academy as well. Someone who is interested in project management, they go along with me for so many years. Now, Mr. Abrais Khan, who's the first student in my class, he is also still present in this webinar. They come with me for a long journey. And I'm more than happy to excite him. Why? Because he's a highly interested stakeholder, isn't it? At the same time, someone comes for certification. Okay, get your certification done. Someone is not interested, not powerful, just join the program, don't know what exactly to be done. Okay, stay in the same fashion, So that's how you need to engage your stakeholders, prioritize and engage as it is expected. Now, the next important thing is focus on value. This is again a very, very, very important subject of focus that we will be discussing in our training program. What does focus on value means? Apple has good amount of energy, good amount of protein, good amount of calcium, XYZ. Doesn't mean that strawberry is small, it doesn't have the same amount of nutrients. Strawberry is as equal as that of an apple too, which means that a large deliverable may not give you large outcomes in your project. A small deliverable doesn't mean that you will get a very small outcome. Maybe a small deliverable gives you a big outcome. A large deliverable may give you a small outcome, right? So as a project manager, you need to understand what the priorities are, right? You need to practice Moscow model. What is Moscow model? Must have, should have, could have, and would have. We'll talk about it more in detail. It's quite interesting to discuss about Moscow model, but this is something that we practice. Prioritization and values are something that we practice as family. Take your shopping trolley. Once you got your salary, go to the shopping mart. Okay, all the would haves. Oh, my daughter asking for pastels, for asking for crayon. Okay, put it into the trolley. Get everything what you want. Wow, wife asking for a diamond necklace. Amazing. Today is what I got my salary. I'll buy you a diamond necklace. Amazing. Okay, now what happens after the 15th of the month? You take the same trolley. Okay, guys, let's focus on. Okay, take maida, take rava, take this one. Take only the biscuits. Okay, the should haves, right? Then the end of the month, 25th. What happens? You don't even carry the trolley anymore. I'm good with my hand. Okay, milk, curd, butter, bread. That's all, because you're focusing on the must-haves, right? Must-haves actually has certain values. Should-haves has certain values, and could-haves has certain values as well. If you don't know how to segregate the different piece of work that you have in your project, relating them to the value of must-have, should-have, could-have, and won't have, you will not be able to focus on the value. So how do you focus on the value is actually the next important character or the principle that a project manager is expected to have. The next important thing is respond to system interaction. Design thinking is again one of the most important criteria that comes into picture in PMBOK. In fact, this is again one of the most important and very interesting part which I like in PMBOK 7th edition from the principal perspective. Recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. System interactions could be from the people perspective, from the process perspective, from the technology perspective. Nowadays, what do we mean by design thinking is nothing but if the old thought process is that my manager calls me in India, okay, see guys, the moon is red in color, okay, now everybody has to say, yes sir, the moon is red in color, only then you will be promoted, okay. Now PMI says that no, it's not like that. He thinks from a specific perspective, he has his own justification. Someone else thinks from their perspective, they have their own justification. What is the thought process that led them to think from that perspective? Capture that and integrate it with your project idea. Integrate that with your project decision making is what we mean by system interaction. There is a new feature that you want to develop. Okay, there is a new technology that comes into picture. Can you actually adapt to the technology into your project? It's much better to adapt rather than recreate. Right? That's what system thinking is all about. When you say system thinking, it's not about some people I have worked with in the past as well. They want to recreate everything by themselves. Recreate. No, you don't have to recreate. Sometimes if that's their expertise level, just adapt to your systems, to your processes, right? This is what is very advantageous and important in terms of the organization, which is what we call it a system thinking, right? The next thing is about demonstrate leadership behaviors. So what is leadership behaviors? Whatever that we are talking about over here till now is more or less focused towards the leadership behavior, but I was discussing about leadership just when we started the class as well. Leadership is something that it's a choice. Whether I should be pregnant, I will be pregnant, I want to be pregnant. The same thing goes with leadership as well. I can be pregnant, I might be pregnant, I want to be pregnant. That's the same thing that goes with leadership. You need to practice. It's just like how you're working out your muscles, you need to practice your leadership. So what is leadership all about? How ethical am I? Am I focusing on people empowerment? Am I taking the accountability to get the stuff done, right? That's the most important element about leadership. And the next important element which we focus over here is what we call it as tailoring. What is tailoring, guys? Tailoring based on the concept means that context, which means that when I saw people completing their PMBOK 6th edition and they were PMP certified, of course, I do have a great respect for them. It doesn't mean that, but there are some people who took PMP certification training program in a half-cooked manner. What they do is that I took my PMP. Now I'm a PMP holder. You have to go ahead and implement all the 47 processes in your PMBOK 6th edition. I think it's 49 processes in your PMBOK 6th edition. You have all the 49 processes. You have to do all the 49 processes in the PMBOK 6th edition. He's simply wasting time. I've seen many organizations implementing PMO, even in Qatar, implementing PMO just because they implemented PMO, they want to do a lot of processes. Okay. Processes 80% and the work only 20%. The project manager comes early at 7 o'clock, works on documentation after documentation, process after processes, which doesn't add any value. So the concept of lean comes into picture. What is all about lean? Think about the wastage in the system. Put 5 whys into a specific process. Is this process required? If this process is required, why do we need this process? We need this process in order to do this. Why do we need to do this? We need to do this because we need to achieve this. Why do we need to achieve this? Because we will satisfy this objective. Why do we need to satisfy those objectives? If it is important, take it or don't take it. You know, putting 5 whys will make you towards the lean perspective on what processes you need to have based on the context. You know, based on the context, focus on tailoring your processes. Rather, don't go ahead and take all the processes available in the PMBOK 6th edition, right, or the 7th edition. Building quality. Quality cannot be taken as a separate stream. Quality is something inbound to the people. Inculcate the culture of quality to the team members is more important than actually having a quality team finding faults in you, right? So this is more about quality. The next important stuff is about none of the project goes without complexity. How do you navigate through complexity is the most important criteria. Of course, every project has complexity. You need to draw an NTPC, a triangle to understand what the complexities are. Complexities can be resolved. It's not a big deal, correct? You know, I have seen some people saying that PMBOK 7th edition is the most difficult thing. But if you look into it passionately, it is very, very easy. Because we learn here how to navigate complexities. And if we are not, what does complexity means? You know, a simple complex problem, a complex PMBOK 7th edition, if someone thinks about it, can be explained in simple terms to motivate people that this is nothing, this is very simple. Put it in simple metaphors, people will be onboarded. At the same time, you can navigate through complexity in a way that things are not at all complicated. It is very simple, but you can present it in a more complicated manner, which actually plays the game, right? Now, this is again the 10th guiding principle, right? Then we got risk responses, risk as a character to the project manager, one of the most important guiding principles, right? We also speak about embrace adaptability, resilience, and risk. More or less, all of these things forms the same theme, okay? Risk is about identifying an uncertain event. What are the opportunities? What are the threats? How do I reduce the threats? How do I increase the opportunities? It's all about risk, okay? Now, what is the resilience and adaptability? How do I convert the negatives into positives is about adaptability and resilience. So we don't want project managers who document risk after risk and keep it in the shelf or the rack doing nothing about it. We need project managers to work on adaptability, resilience, to convert the risk into a positive event always. So how do you prepare your mindset towards that, right? So you need to embrace adaptability for that. You know, these days, cyber attack doesn't happen just because I have seen people working in different organizations. Cyber attack happens. So what they do, secure the firewall, secure the systems, put a 2-factor password authentication, put XYZ. They secure the whole system and they say that we are cyber security. You know, we got the real security. This is about risk. This is about risk management. But what is resilience? Resilience is nothing but I don't have to, as a hacker, I don't want to do anything. Someone is working in that organization. I give him $10,000. Okay, you're already tired of working in your organization. I'll give you $10,000. Give me your 2-factor authentication. Give me your password. Let me hack whatever that I want. And you're a system administrator. Very good. Advantages for me to hack everything. You can take the people and you can get it hacked. So it's about resilience, right? Resilience means that even if a threat were to occur, we need to design the system interactions from the perspective that each and everyone is not exposed to the whole network. Each and everyone has only independent access to respective systems that they are responsible to manage. Okay, I don't want to talk about it again. This is actually a very complicated and a very interesting concept as explained by Google Zero Trust Network. But the PMI adapted the best of the adaptability and resilience technique from these concepts. And the final thing that PMBOK or PMI suggests in terms of the 12th principle is about change. Changes were perceived to be dangerous. Singapore started with agile project management and welcoming changes 20 years before. And in Qatar, still now we think about change as a very big problem. And for me, especially, I have the privilege over here to discuss with people from Team Academy, who are mostly people who executes the projects, isn't it? Project managers, okay? And I have the privilege, I also have the privilege of being as a lecturer in one of the university over here. And I do project management training for more than 300 plus people who are all Qataris working in different government organizations. They're all sponsors. Okay, they're working in the sponsoring organization. We need to understand that the mindset of the project managers from the sponsoring organization is different to that of the mindset from the consulting organization like Astad or KEO or XYZ. And the mindset is different to that of the people who are from the performing organization. But if you listen to the specific example, I think you will get a clarity what exactly happens in both the spectrum that I address a lot of people, a lot of project managers is that the people in my community in Team Academy, they start blaming the sponsors. The people in the sponsoring community, they say that, oh my God, people from the project management team, they come up with so many different conditions and clauses that we don't understand. But I'll give you a simple example. Ashgan initiated a project. Now, I'm literally feeling so bad that I had been doing PMP training, project management training for the last 15 years, made more than 1,200 plus PMPs. But still, what is the impact to the society? Still, I see that projects are messed up. We have a lot of roads and blockades and so many things. I'm unhappy as a, as a person who was striving towards project management for the last so many years, looking at what is the impact in the society. Okay, it is great that people got PMP, but that's not the intention. What is the difference that you made in the society? It's still the same. And now people start blaming each other and project management becomes a monkey business, rather not a business of advantage at all. A simple example, Ashgal gives a contract to the subcontractor. The subcontractor gives it to the subcontractor. And again, he passes the contractor to 10 commands below him. Okay. Now what happens is that, Ashgal goes for a fixed price contract. They state that, okay, this is the fixed scope of work that you need to do. This is the fixed price that I will give you. Perfect. Project manager, Ashgal, best friends when they are signing the contract. I'm your best friend. You are my best friend. Very good. We will sign the contract. After 2 months down the line, there is an Amiri decree that from the Ministry of Environmental Affairs, guys, we should not use any plastic or hazardous materials in our site office. We should not use any kind of XYZ materials for any of the projects that is happening in Qatar, because our king visited Saudi Arabia and he found that we need to be green focused, and that's one of the pillars of Qatar National Vision, environmental pillars. So let's focus on green building. Okay, whatever the contract that you have signed with the subcontractor, it has a condition in that contract. In case if there is any kind of a government clause or a government decree that is getting passed, it needs to be done by you free of cost. It's not included in the scope of work. It's not included in the finance. In case if there is any impact to the cost, time, or resources, you have to bear it as a contractor. Now, what happened? The contractor already, the Emiri decree was passed on the 1st of January. First of all, Ashgal did not understand what this decree is all about. They're trying to interpret for the next 3 months. April, they understood this is what this decree is all about. Okay, now they communicated to the contractor or the consultants. The consultants communicated to the contractor communicated to the subcontractor. And when it reached the subcontractor, it's already 8 months old. We received certain instructions on the project that needs to be changed in September, which was supposed to be changed in January. The decree was passed. So much of time to get the stuff done, and they are raising change requests. Again, change request is taking another 3 months to get the stuff done. Okay, now in this interim process, the subcontractor says that I will cancel my contract because if I want to redo all the things, it will actually cost me a lot. Okay, Ashkal says that, okay, no problem. Next contractor come into picture. Another degree gets passed. You're fired. Next contractor comes into picture. Project manager and the sponsors, best friends. In the middle, they are actually a little bit okay. At the end of the project, they don't want to meet each other. You know, they become like very bad enemies. Why? Because, you know, the contract, the international engineering contract types are not defined properly. If it could have been, you know, a time and material contract, none of the parties would have been in problem. You know, if it could have been that the change management was done in a proper way, you know, faster decisions from the ministry, faster approvals, less processes, less documentation, and more actions, we wouldn't have ended up in this scenario, right? And this is what PMBOK 7th edition is mostly focusing on. What exactly are the 12 guiding principles in terms of the PMBOK is all about this one. Okay, guys? So I think I already took a very, very, very huge